AFA Today.
AFR Talk.
I will stumble, I will fall down, but I will not be moved. I will make mistakes, I will face
AFA Today from New York. It's Kevin McCullough. Glad you're with us. And I believe what was on the screen just a moment ago was a shot of the Freedom Tower, which is where the AFA Today's new home, we come to you from about a block from there. So we're right in the belly of the news-making beast here in Manhattan, and a great iconic view that I see every day as I come to the studio, because this enormous building stands out like no building in any city I've ever lived in. And the reminder of why it's there. And then where we actually come to you from is a set of studios that are right next to the Trinity Church, which is where Alexander Hamilton and some of our founding fathers are buried. And it's stood throughout 2011. The 2001 attacks, and is still standing today as kind of a sign of God's presence, hopefully. But we've got a lot of work to do in this city, and I'm so glad that you're with us each day, no matter where you tune in from. 888-589-8840. Kevin McCullough, glad to be with you. We were just speaking about this idea that these bus drivers in Houston are going to be reprimanded for praying for one another. And if you missed the story, these bus drivers they got wind that a fellow bus driver's daughter had just been hit by a car, and she was clinging to life. And so on a back channel of the bus drivers' CB network, whatever that is, they organized a way for a bunch of them to get on the same wavelength, literally, and began to pray for one another in that process. Well, the school district heard about it. Somebody ratted them out. Somebody said, "Hey, you know what they're doing over there? They're praying. They're praying on them CBs that are in the buses, and they're saying prayers." And we're only talking about a rule. We're not even talking about the law. We're just talking about a rule that some arbitrary superintendent or school board made at some point in time. But they said, no school property may be used for anything private. So they're not making an objection, supposedly, against the people using it for religious reasons. They're saying that it's private. And yet they're praying for their fellow bus driver, who is only linked to them through the employment of all of them working for the school district. And now these bus drivers have been issued reprimands, and some of the clergy are coming to their aid saying, "Hey, that's not right. These are good workers. They have clear records. You shouldn't be doing this to them." 888-589-8840. Your reaction to this pretty hostile attack against people that I think did something that only came natural. I think that when you are a believer in Christ, I think that there is if you are a growing believer in Jesus, I think there's an immediate necessity to pray when you get news that someone that you love or care about is going through very difficult circumstances. So what's with the hostility? Because I'll guarantee you the Houston Independent School District hasn't prosecuted any of these bus drivers for gossiping over the CB at some point in time. I'll be willing to lay money down on that. This irritated somebody, and so they said, "Hey, wait! They're using school radios for that." And now they've reprimanded them. They've put this mark on their employment record. If they were to leave that job and go somewhere else, this is a negative that stays with them. Where's the justice in this? 888-589-8840. 888-589-8840. Let's talk with, let's go to Kenny, who's calling us from Ohio first. Hi, Kenny. Welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. So glad you're here.
Happy New Year, Kevin. If
Thank you,
school
sir.
administrators will attack bus drivers for praying, it makes you wonder what in the world is being taught in the classrooms. I wonder how many public schools in the United States of America are indoctrinating our little children with the homosexual agenda, telling the little children to hate Christian people that stand for biblical principles. I tell you, we do need to pray, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate that. And yeah, that's why we've started Pray 2014. Look, if I have to go through the muck and mire of reporting this stuff every day, I think the least that I should be offering in return, because someone came to me a couple of weeks ago, actually Phil Boyce, a legendary programming talent here in New York City. He launched the careers of Sean Hannity and Mark Levin and Rush Limbaugh and a whole bunch of people that you may not have ever heard of. But he's a believer. He got saved through the ministry of Promise Keepers. And he came to me and said, Kev, you know, what's interesting about the stuff that you report on all the time is he said, there's so much of it. There's so much of this news that's out there. He said, but you've got to give people hope. You've got to tell them that the situation is not lost. You at least have to point them to the origin of truth, which we do. We obliterate confusion. We amplify truth. We pursue clarity. That's the goal of what we do. But he said, you've got to do that. Well, that was the start of the Holy Spirit starting to work on me, going, what could we all do? And that's when I asked Pastor Cymbala to come give us advice. And he said, every major movement and work of God that's ever happened has happened because prayer preceded it. So pray2014.com, pray2014.com, and you can be part of these prayer focuses that we're going to be telling you about. This week we're asking the Lord to help us trust completely that His provision will in fact be what we need. Trusting completely in His provision. This week's prayer focus, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Tony in Texas. Tony, welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. So glad you're with us. These kids in school, they're in your state. What do you think about that?
Unfortunately, I hate to be that guy on the air, but I believe that the school district and the bus drivers are correct. I don't believe that the bus drivers deserve a reprimand, but I do believe that that using the CV radios to do what should have been a private prayer amongst themselves was wrong. I think they should have the reprimand removed from their records, but I think they were just trying to make it clear, hey, I just imagine being a school official and getting that phone call from a parent from either side saying, hey, why is somebody on the radio saying a prayer? Or if this was anybody else, they would have gotten in trouble just the same.
Yeah, and I don't even think it was a parent that complained. I think it was like a dispatcher or another bus driver or something that happened upon it. But let me ask you this, Tony, because it is interesting. Some people are going to say, well, the rules are the rules. This is a school district rule, supposedly. Do you think that there's a remote possibility that they've enforced this kind of rule 100%? Every day preceding this current event?
Absolutely not. I just think that maybe the one time they're reinforcing it now is maybe it's because it's the first time they've said a prayer on the CV radio. I feel like I wish the news would tell us just a little bit more about what's going on, if this is a habit or if this is a one-time thing. But no, they didn't deserve a reprimand. Maybe a warning.
Yeah, this was according to the news report. This was the first time that anything like that had happened, and you can kind of understand the context of that. I mean, you've got a fellow bus driver whose child has just been hit. That mother is panicking. Her friends, and she probably even said, "Oh my God, please pray. My baby's in trouble." I mean, I'm sure that those types of words probably came out of her mouth, and so what are people that know the Lord? What are they going to immediately start to do? I think that they're immediately going to start praying, whether they have a radio or not. And I think that if they can encourage one another to do that. And here's the thing: is it really a private activity? I mean, the school district issued this reprimand as though it was some sort of absolutely clear truth that these teachers were engaged in, number one, an entirely private activity, not related to the interest of the school district itself. I don't know how you make that argument, given that it's another bus driver that's involved. Secondly, that they did it wrongfully, that this is somehow the use of material for private purposes. How do you make that argument? This is a fellow bus driver. They may have prayed for a bus driver who gone through this, whether that other bus driver was a believer in some sort of faith or not. They may have said, I just care about that person, and I want to do what I can to help them. 888-589-8840. Your thoughts on this? Let's go next to Tom calling from Virginia. Tom, you're up next with Calvin McCullough. Thanks for being here. Hi.
Thanks, Kevin. I agree with your last guy saying the reprimand probably was a little egregious, but I have driven school buses, and I know that since Columbine, a lot of school districts have put their buses in with the E911 system so that they're monitored constantly. I know the school system that I drove a school bus for did that, and there was like 3 dedicated channels that were monitored 24/7, and it was a matter of FCC compliance whether you could have what they would call private conversation on it. And I have heard lots of people chastised on the radio for that is not a conversation to be held on this radio, and things like that. So I can understand why the school district would say you don't need to be preying on this. Perhaps if a school administrator had come on, or the head of the transportation department had said, so-and-so's child has just been struck, and we would like everyone to take time to pray if you are of faith, then that might have taken care of the situation without it being made such a reprimand kind of note in my file deal.
So the bus drivers were clearly in the wrong, according to what you're thinking.
I can understand. What saying a prayer for a fellow bus driver, yes, that is 100% right. But I can understand why administration might come down and say that was inappropriate for this particular radio channel, because I know that when conversation is being had on the channel, then no other conversation can be had on that channel. So if they only had 3 channels, one to notify buses and one to hold conversation on, and one for administration, the higher up muckety muck people, then if they were preying on that one channel, nobody else could communicate on that channel. And if there had been an accident or something like that, then there would be no way of notifying anyone.
Yeah, the report that we played for you seemed to indicate that it was not the primary channel, that they had moved over to one of the other off channels, if you will, to continue that discussion. It's interesting though, because even you admitted that you've heard conversation take place on the radios that wasn't supposed to be held there, and yet I don't know. Do you know if people got reprimanded and got marks on their records because they did such a thing?
Well, I know that there have been those threats, but again, if it was a reprimand, it would have been between the person that was reprimanded and the supervisor. It would not be
so and in their case, they even came on and said, "Hey, this isn't appropriate. Cut it out." Right. Which they didn't do in this case. Thanks, Tom, for the phone call. All right, so some people disagreeing, and that's fine. We welcome disagreement. In fact, we put you to the front of the line if you do. 888-589-8840. I just think that when you're talking about such a selective, this is not a law. This is not a law. This is a school district rule. This is something that the school district set up. You're not talking about disobeying governing authorities. You're talking about, a standard operating procedure, more or less, for the school district. And you're talking about extraordinary circumstances. You're not talking about yucking it up, talking about, hey, how'd the Texans do yesterday? Oh, man, they stunk. You should have seen it. They were 0 for the world in the passing game. None of that stuff. That wasn't on there. What was going on? Fellow bus driver, her daughter was down. We would later find out that she died. And these were bus drivers rallying to the cause of the fellow bus driver. 888-589-8840. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not seeing something, but I don't see it as black and white as my last 2 callers. Let's talk to Terry calling from Mississippi. Hi, Terry. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing? Appreciate your program.
Thank you, sir.
My feelings are in the battle for religious freedom, and I believe with all of my heart this is what this is. This is what our forefathers established this nation, that we can express our religious convictions And I don't believe that means that we can't pray and express prayer before others. And I think a big problem here is we're just backing down. We're just going to have to be firm and brave and say, hey, if they put us in jail or whatever they do to us, we're going to have to take a stand. And if enough Christians take a stand, I think we'll begin to make a difference. And also, I want to say that we just need to do it in love. But we've got to say, hey, this is what I believe, and this is where I stand. And I think another problem is religious people without Christ. Religious people will make rules and regulations, but they don't have God in their hearts. And I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I'm saying this out of experience. You know, it was a religious group that put Jesus Christ on the cross.
That's true.
And so they can do it in the name of religion and feel comfortable about squelching the voice of believers, you know. So that's just my opinion on the matter.
I appreciate it, Terry. Thank you for the call, and do appreciate you weighing in on this. 888-589-8840. Let's talk to, let's not. So when we come back on AFA today here on AFR Talk, I'm going to shift gears. Thank you for those of you that weighed in on the bus drivers. Did you know that Al-Qaeda reared its ugly head over the weekend? We'll give you the details of what happened, but also why it was avoidable. And what it means to us. So we'll do that when we continue. This is AFA Today on AFR Talk. It's your midday look at what's going on. I'm Kevin McCullough, coming to you from the belly of the news-making beast, Lower Manhattan here in New York City. And we're glad you're with us. Stay with us here on AFR Talk.